The airline that says don't fly. Oh, vindication is so sweet, my friends. We had a guy on the YouTube channel says no one ever says not to fly in the Green New Deal. My friends, if you are worried about quote unquote CO2 that's leading to climate change, the number one thing you can do is stop flying. It's that simple. Everyone wants to put it on somebody else. No one wants to be burdened by not being able to travel via airplane. No, I'll tell you that. It's funny. I was watching, what's her name, ACO, yeah, down at the border with her fake virtue signaling, looking over an empty parking lot going like this with some $600 watch on. That $600 watch was manufactured in China. How do you think it makes it to AOC's wrist? Do you think it does it by some guy on a bike? It is shipped via plane or by ship. One of those two things is burning oil, putting huge amounts of CO2 in the atmosphere. Anyway, let's read this. This is, man, is there anything funner than, or more fun? What's the word? Yeah, I guess more fun or funner. I don't. I'm from Maine. I get away with saying improper language, English language. Is there anything more fun than just making fun of the green, the people who are just so over the top, worried about climate change going to lead us all to ruin? It's fun because it's silly. It's just the whole thing has been doing this since Thomas Malthus, Paul Ehrlich. We've been hearing this, James Hansen. Never mind, Michael Mann. The list goes on and on. So here we go. Dateline from Inc. magazine. I'm not sure when this is actually, but I saw it in my it doesn't give us a date, huh? Anyway, it's just the other day. I came across it, I think 2 days ago, in my lead that I get on my phone for news articles of interest. So this is KLM has a surprising request for passengers: don't fly. Minda Zetlin is the writer of this. If your company is in business to make money, how likely are you to launch a huge marketing campaign begging people not to use your product? Probably not likely, unless you're KLM Royal Dutch Airlines, in which case you've done it already. That's right. The Netherlands national airline just launched a campaign called Fly Responsibly, in which it makes a surprising request of its customers: fly less. Do you always have to meet face to face? The promotional video asks. Could you take the train instead? A trade. What? An airline asking its passengers not to fly? Yes, because as KLM explains in the accompanying statement, air travel accounts for 2 to 3% of man-made CO2 emissions worldwide, and that number is growing as more people in more countries are climbing out of poverty and hankering to see the world. The 100-year-old airline says it's doing its part. In an accompanying statement, KLM says it's replacing its fleet with more fuel-efficient planes. No matter what you do, man, you're not flying on a photovoltaic, all right? You're not flying on battery power from wind turbines. You're flying on good old-fashioned fossil fuels. I love you, fossil fuels. God bless you. And you're certainly not flying on biomass. Using sustainable fuel, and even created a sustainable fuel plant in the Netherlands. We work hard to get things right, but all parties involved need to join forces to create a sustainable future, which will include not flying at all. So let me just interject. If you're flying from New York to Los Angeles in order to do a meeting with your green investors, you are the problem. If you think CO2 is a problem, which I absolutely do not, I like the greening of the world as we're seeing according to NASA. But if you want to be true to your green street cred, don't get on the plane. Just do WebEx. Oh, but Josh, I want to travel. I want to see Europe. I want to be with those Europe and their socialistic ideals. Can't do it, my friends. Can't do it because you are taking as much kilowatt hours in that one flight internationally as my whole family does over the course of a year. Divide by 2. I will tell you. You'll use about 33 kilowatt hours for the course of that year. And that one round trip flight, we use about 60 kilowatt hours a day. Or 33, you're flying that plane from New York to London is essentially the equivalent of 30 kilowatt hours a day used over the course of a year. That one round trip, that's it. You're using essentially half of the electricity that my entire family of 6 uses in a year. So remember that. Your one flight internationally uses half the electricity amount in terms of the overall kilowatt hours consumed that my entire family uses over the course of a year. All right? That's how devastating the issue is for CO2 when it comes to energy used and the emissions created for taking that flight. That's why until these guys stop flying, I just don't want to, I don't care. And as my man over at instantpundit.com, I don't, what does he say? I'll believe in my goddamn footprint when you stop having houses on the beach or buying these mansions on an island or flying across the world. I agree with that 100%. Some critics say this amounts to nothing more than greenwashing. Yeah, of course it does. After all, the airline still offers special deals on its websites and invites people to book a flight with KLM and visit the most incredible destinations in the world. And indeed, in the accompanying statement, the airline explains it won't stop promoting air travel. All it wants is to stay in business for our customers and our 33,000 employees. No carbon tax, please. See, this is the way the green people who don't want to stop their use of things that create CO2, the Amazon shipments, the watches from China, the flying to Europe to engage in their, I love this socialism of Denmark. They don't want to have them personally be taxed in terms of don't fly. They say we're going to put it on somebody else. No, and they want a carbon tax, which whose carbon tax affects? It affects the people at the bottom of the rung who can least afford to pay it. Interesting, the airline also notes in a statement that's opposed to a national carbon tax in the Netherlands since, it claims, passengers would simply drive to Germany or Belgium and fly from there instead. Therefore, KLM says a carbon tax on aviation should only be imposed if it can be imposed globally, which is pretty disingenuous because, of course, that'll never happen exactly. It also claims that a tax that isn't invested back in the aviation industry to make it more sustainable won't do anything to combat climate change. This, again, is untrue because the main point of a carbon tax is to make polluting more expensive, which causes people and companies to do less of it. I like this lady. So this is an op-ed, I guess, because she is saying this is untrue in a non-opinion piece. Okay. The point of a tax to make polluting more expensive, and who is going to get hurt more by the tax? I thought we like progressive taxation. All this talk about carbon tax can give you a big clue as to KLM's true motivation here. A carbon tax or cap and trade law seems like a non-starter in the U.S., even the very blue state of Washington, which was roundly defeated last election. I love it. I'm not going to read on. All this stuff is fake virtue signaling. We know that. I get it. It's just, and look, more power to Minda for pointing it out. This is definitely an op-ed, I guess. My issue is at the end of the day, virtue signaling doesn't do anything if you're fine. I'm sorry. Like I said, my man, what's his name down there? Michael Blue Jay in Texas. Even he has links to cheap flights, and he some kind of justifies it a little bit by saying you're going to fly anyway. You might as well do it. Well, that's... Look, man, if you want to live in the Western convenience, things are mutually exclusive. We're going to have CO2. If you want to live in the convenience you're accustomed to in the West, you're going to pollute. That's all there is to it with CO2. And that's just what you're going to have to contend with. That doesn't mean you just go freaking, whatever, being stupid, but it just means you're going to have to contend with it. And the crazy thing is, as we're seeing by China and India, these people also want to live with the conveniences that we have. And they're building coal plants. They're promoting more and more CO2 usage via airplanes. They're going to Africa. Chinese people are going to Africa like crazy to do mining companies out there. These little towns of Chinese residents in various African countries. How do you think they're getting there? They're taking airplanes. They're building coal fire plants. They're doing the whole thing because they want the conveniences of Western civilization. I make no apology for that whatsoever. CO2 is not a problem. The world is getting greener. This is all wonderful, wonderful thing. However, if it makes you sleep better tonight to combat climate change, then stop flying and follow the lead that KLM has suggested to you, even though we all know it's virtue signaling. And that's the worst kind of signaling, virtue signaling, because you know they don't do it. They don't believe it. If they did, they'd shut down the airplane. If they literally believe climate change was a pending threat where we have 11 and a half years left to live, they would shut down the airplane. All right, we'll see you next time.